So this is a Sega Master System 2 cartridge port. There's a pause button here, on off of course, and there's a standard RF and also power input, and on the back of here of course are the two controller settings. All pretty standard stuff. I'm not sure whether this is a particular issue in itself, but there is a big difference in terms of the board. If we just undo the 5 screws at the back and then lift off the grounding, this is clearly a later revision judging by the quality of the board. It's really shiny. But there's one thing noticeable by its complete absence. It's a CTX chip. The CTX chip is a very easy way to do an RGB mod, or for that matter S-video or composite. They seem to have added a couple of capacitors and changed the chip down the bottom. So when it comes to board reduction, spend a good bit of time having a look at the board and seeing what connects to what. For example, this is the RF, which we don't need anymore because we're going to video mod it. That can come off, and also that means we're not going to get interference, which would require shielding normally. The capacitors are quite tall. These can easily be relocated just by using some wires to connect to those particular pins. We can't reduce the height of the system by anything more than the height of the chips, of course. And if you notice therefore also these little brown capacitors are about the same height, so we don't need to bother about moving those. And the same with some of these other components as well. Here's the crystal, and again it's roughly the same sort of height as per the chip, so effectively we need to leave all those things alone. But what we can do is to relocate the cartridge slot, remove this, and also the edges. This effectively is the grounding areas, which of course we can trim right down. The only component here of any use is this, which is a 7805, which will reduce the voltage down to 5 volts. If we look on the back of the board, it's actually very easy to see what connects to what. There's only a couple of connections, and then that will free that part of the board. So in terms of realistic board reduction, we could, if we really wanted to, remove probably this entire part of the section, including the board. We could also trim around here, particularly as this section only seems to feed to the power switch. The reset button only connects to 2 wires, so again this piece could come off, but it would need a reasonable amount of rewiring to get this part done. Not a big job, but for the amount we save it probably isn't worth it at this stage. But we can remove the edges and that will make a reasonable difference. Which has been RGB modded and somewhat reduced in size. In fact, you get an idea here as to how much it has reduced down. But this is the CTX chip. So it looks like they've done 1 or 2 board revisions in order to produce the one at the bottom. This is quite a good little video also though, just to show how much has been reduced by trimming down the sides, and also taking off 1 or 2 components that aren't required, including the RF unit itself. This incidentally is the RGB modding. There's the white cable, which is just for grounding. There's the RGB and the C-Sync here. The audio can be tapped either from the positive part of the, in this case, relocated capacitor, or off this rather strange chip. Strange because the pins seem to be going up and down. Pin 15 is the one to tap the audio off, and of course just over here is a standard 7805 to produce 5 volts. So that gives the comparison between the old board, which I've used for this particular mod because of the audio, the video capability, and clearly this is a different revision. Now I'm going to show the screen working on the modded board. Demonstration of one of the games. I'll just turn the audio on to show that it works okay. And of course, being RGB modded, the quality of the picture is far better. I'll just turn the light off over here to reduce some of the glare. Well, this is certainly one of the simplest controllers I've ever come across. You just got the basic D-pad and the 2 buttons, and there's a separate wire that connects each to their corresponding points. It really is very simple. There's no chips, there's no resistors, there's nothing. What that means, of course, is that we can just take the straight wires and connect them onto the console without the need for one of these boards.